Author Kenneth Bailey joins the Discover the Word group again today and helps us discover in an ancient genealogy at the beginning of the New Testament account of the life of Jesus written by Matthew, a key difference from common male-dominated genealogies of that time.
One of the amazing things about the genealogy of Matthew is that it's got 5 women, and they stand out just like especially brilliant lights because they're so unexpected.
Yeah, and so explore why there's such good news in a list of names as author Ken Bailey joins us on Discover the Word. The Gospel in a Genealogy is next. And this is the weekday small group Bible study from RBC Ministries in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Discover the Word. And next week, Haddon Robinson, Alice Matthews, and Mart DeHaan are planning on dropping back into a study of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount that we've been pursuing off and on for a while now. We'll be in Matthew chapter 6 and explore some significant teaching from Jesus about generosity and legalism and prayer. But before we do that, we want to spend some time with our friend Kenneth Bailey. Now, Ken Bailey is an author and educator who's spent over 60 years of his life in various parts of the Middle East. And his book, Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes, records a number of his observations of how looking at the Bible through the lens of Middle Eastern culture and history opens up meaning to the Scriptures that would never be seen by viewing it from a 21st century Western culture perspective. And so let's turn over to the beginning of the New Testament, Matthew chapter 1, and see how this list of names communicates a key truth about who Jesus came to save.
If you're interested in knowing the Bible, you'll be interested in a book by Dr. Kenneth Bailey, Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes. So Dr. Bailey is with us today, and we're delighted that he is. So, Ken, let's talk about the gospel as it appears in genealogies.
Okay. Well, we'd have a genealogy in Matthew, and there's a genealogy in Luke, and one starts at the beginning and the other starts at the end, and that's all right. One starts with Jesus and goes clear back to Adam, and then the one in Matthew starts with Abraham and descends down to Jesus. So we're looking at the one in Matthew, which is, I think, the focus of our interest here. The amazing thing about it is that genealogies, as known in the Middle East, and there's a long one in the Wisdom of Ben Sirach, a part of the what we call the Apocrypha between the Old and New Testament, and it opens with the phrase, "Let us all now praise famous men." And it's a long list, and they're all males, so-and-so, son of so-and-so, son of so-and-so, and that's what a genealogy of the time was. But one of the amazing things about the genealogy of Matthew is that it's got 5 women, and they stand out just like especially brilliant lights because they're so unexpected.
That was different in terms of the ancient world and how people would have looked at a genealogy.
Right, and modern, same thing. Your genealogy is a list of the males.
So let's talk about those 5 shady ladies.
Shady? Wait a minute.
Well, they're a mixture. They're not all shady ladies. Some of them are. Well, the first one shows up in Matthew chapter 1, verse 3, and this is Tamar. And Tamar is very interesting in that she is married without children, and then her husband dies, and according to the custom of the time, if there is another brother, the family is supposed to give that brother to the widow as a husband. Well, in this case, there was a younger brother, but the younger brother was not of age to be married, but she was promised that when he comes to age, then we will see that you have a husband to take care of you. Women did not have opportunities to financially fend for themselves, and so this was an important part of the way they took care of their own. Well, the young man gets to the age to be married, and nothing happens. And she waits and waits and waits, and still nothing happens. So here she is, quite desperate, and so she opts for a very desperate and daring and immoral way to solve her problem. And that is, she hears that the father-in-law, Judah, is going to come through her village. So she dressed herself in the robes of a prostitute with the face covered and sits in the street. And he comes by and decides that he would like to sleep with her. And so then he does. He goes into her house, sleeps with her. And all right, now the payment. And he says, well, I'll pay a goat. And she says, well, I'm not sure you're going to pay. I don't know you. How do I know that you're going to pay? And he says, what do you want? She says, well, give me your signet ring and give me your staff carved, identified as his. And as soon as the goat arrives, then I'll give these back. He agrees and leaves. Next week, he sends one of his servants to the same village to find this prostitute sitting in the street. Whoops, no prostitute. So the servant goes back and reports to Judah there isn't any prostitute there. Well, okay, she left town. What are we going to do? A few months later, the daughter-in-law is found to be pregnant. And Judah gets furious. She's been sleeping around. This is breaking the honor of the clan. It's a humiliation to our family. The only thing we can do is to kill this girl. This is an ancient, unfortunate Middle Eastern custom which preserves in traditional Middle Eastern life to this day. Mm-hmm. The honor of the family is tied up to the sexual behavior of the women, not the men. Mm-hmm. So we're going to kill her. All right. So they come to kill her, and they ask, well, who is the father? Who are you sleeping with? And she says, the person who owns this stick and this ring, these are the people, this is the man who has slept with me. And they take it back to Judah, and oops, that's mine. And then he figures out what has happened, and he says, she is more righteous than I am. Amazing response.
What do you think he meant by that?
I think he meant by that she has managed to acquire the rights that I should have given to her, and I failed to do so. I'm the guy that is breaking the law, and she has seen to it that she gets her rights, even though she does it in this extraordinary way. It is an amazing story. An immoral woman who is praised. What other option did she have? Mm-hmm. How else is she going to take care of herself? And so given that culture and that society, it doesn't make it right, but it does give us the picture of a very bold, extremely intelligent, courageous woman who considers her options and picks the best of them and is praised for doing so. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Amazing story. Mm-hmm. And the fact that she's in the genealogy.
Yes, yes.
And the people who heard that genealogy would have known that.
Yes, oh, of course. Oh, yes. She's not forgotten. And she's put in. So then the second one is Rahab. Now, Rahab is not a Jewess. The first one, probably a Jewess, although she could have been some other ethnic group. And she is in Jericho, and along come the people of Israel, and they send spies into Jericho. Most of us know the story, to find out what are the fortifications and all of that. And people get a little bit nervous about who these people are and why they're looking around at how strong our gates are and our fortifications. And there are suspicions about them, so they go to the home of this prostitute, leaving the community to think, oh, they're just coming because they want to sleep with a prostitute. Well, that's not a problem. And they stay the night, and sure enough, in the morning, the people come after them again, and she hides them on the roof so that they're not caught. They're quite impressed with this, and then they talk to her, and they ask her why she's done this, and she has heard of the God of Israel, and she has decided that the God of Israel is going to be her God. And she is willing to make a huge risk because if discovered, she will be killed. And they say to her, all right, you hang a scarlet thread outside of your apartment, and we'll know that that's where you live. And when we storm the city and the city is destroyed, we will see that you stay alive. A pagan woman, she's not of the clan or the race of Israel. She is a prostitute. She opts against her own gods. She makes a costly decision to support the worshipers of the one true God as she perceives it, however she discovers that. And she is honored in the tradition, and she is listed as one of the ancestors of David.
Matthew, as I said, picked some shady ladies for his genealogy.
One of them Jewish and the other Gentile. Matthew is making a statement.
What do you think his statement is?
His statement is the gospel is for everybody. It is not just the Messiah of Israel that we're talking about here. We're talking about the Messiah of the world, the one who will bring salvation and set free all those who believe, irrespective of their ethnic origin, irrespective of their ethical lifestyle up to the point in which they believe. All sinners and all races are called by this Messiah. He comes for all of them. That's loud and clear to the Jew who reads this, and that Jew can explain it to the Greeks.
We've been talking to Kenneth Bailey, talking about his book, Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes. And we've learned a lot. It's a book that we've only touched the hem of the garment, but it's a good hem, and we're glad he was with us today. Ken, thank you.
It's my privilege, Haddon. Thank you very much.
And we're glad that you're here with us for these special edition Discover the Word conversations. We have Haddon Robinson and Alice Matthews around the table, along with our guest, author and teacher, Kenneth Bailey. And as you've heard, Ken's book is titled Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes. It's a substantial book, more than 400 pages in length, and it takes you through the New Testament Gospels with an enlightening perspective, to say the least. You'll join Ken in studying the genealogy of Jesus, as we got a taste of today, as well as the birth and the teachings of Jesus. There's a section on the dramatic actions of the Lord, including his calling of Peter, his healing ministries, his dealings with women. And then in the final part of the book, Ken helps us understand the parables that Jesus told. As I work through this really interesting book, I'm struck by the fact that some of the smallest details in the Gospels, things that I've passed over when I've read before, actually lend great depth of meaning to the text, and it's helpful to have someone who knows the Middle Eastern culture and can explain things in a clear and relevant manner. Well, I'm Brian Hettinga here with Haddon and Alice, and we'll have Ken Bailey back with us on Friday to continue this conversation about the women in the genealogy of Jesus. Don't miss Friday's discussion here on Discover the Word. Discover the Word is provided by RBC Ministries, the publishers of the Our Daily Bread devotional booklet.